Welcome to today's Talk Business and Politics Daily. It's Monday, and that means we are joined by John Brummett of the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. Good to see you.
It's good to be here, as always.
I hear you went to the movies the other day, and the movie didn't play. What's up with that?
This is an entirely metaphorical story. A friend of mine said, you need to go see Al Gore's sequel. An Inconvenient Sequel, it's called. It's a follow-up to An Inconvenient Truth. And it's closing at the Colonel Glenn, 2:30. Been showing a few days at 11 and 2:30. And you need to get out there to see it. And I thought, okay, maybe there's a column. Maybe I do need to see it. I woke up in middle afternoon for the 2:30 final showing of the run. I asked the young woman at the ticket booth for tickets to the Al Gore movie. She did not know who Al Gore was or what the Al Gore movie was.
She probably wasn't born when he was vice president.
She wasn't. Then I'm joined in the theater, full-size theater, by 3 other people. And then the showing is at 2:10, I should say, and at 2:30, they haven't done anything. No previews, nothing. They're showing a Chevrolet logo and playing bad music. And we're just going, why? They had forgotten, I guess, that anybody was in there or to punch the button, the digital button to show the film. And then on the way out, I asked a young woman, is this the last showing of the Inconvenient Sequel? And she said, which one was that? And then she said she didn't know. And she said, why? Do you want to come back and see it again? And I said, no, I'm with the newspaper, and I may want to write about it but unless it's going away. And she said, oh, the newspaper. You should write about it. And she called the name of
She didn't say, what's a newspaper?
Yeah, she said, you ought to write about it. And she called the name of another movie I didn't understand. And she said, people lining up, it is really scary. And I said, I guess Miami Beach falling out into the ocean is that's not scary enough.
No.
So
that was Earthquake from 1977.
The metaphor of all that is a metaphor for our new politics in Arkansas and the world. I mean, I went to the first one, Inconvenient Truth, won an Oscar, big crowd, full theater. People are tired of talking about climate change. They think what they think, and they don't think Al Gore's got anything to do with it. Plus, they don't remember who Al Gore is. Plus, Arkansas is just, as you know, since 2004, whenever Inconvenient Truth was.
Not worried about Miami Beach falling into the ocean.
It's not an urgent need, and people are worried about whether the streets are safe, whether the school's any good, or whether their president's insane, and whether terrorists are coming. This is a gradual issue, and it's just not. It was a remarkable political metaphor. I've written about it for later in the week. I just told you the whole thing.
Well, you did.
I get carried away and tell my whole column. I'm sorry.
Yeah, right. But still, the way that the words are put together, John, that's what makes the column riveting and worth the read, even if you already know what it's about.
What about the way I verbalize it here on your program?
It makes it worth watching.
Okay.
It's different.
Okay.
Reading and watching,
right,
two different things.
Good.
Let's talk about another powerful story, laced full of metaphors as well. The New York Times did a piece on a tragic turned inspirational story out of Fort Smith, Arkansas. I know you're going to write about this, but go ahead and some of your takeaways on this story. For people that haven't read the story yet, maybe give a brief summary.
Yeah, you want me to tell the whole story because it was a long story. Briefly.
I want Cliff's Notes version of the story.
Briefly, a poor white working class male youth in Fort Smith, a high school dropout, lowered his expectations to what others have of him, but it turns out to be a good young man. Falls in with a bad guy. They end up drinking too much whiskey. They go to the mosque in Fort Smith, which there he is, and his friend, in view of the security camera, spray paints swastika and slogans and racism and go home. And he winds up unable to meet bail, brought up on felony charges for being part of that event. And long story short, he writes a letter seeking forgiveness to the mosque.
Because he truly had a change of heart.
He had never really been as bad as his actions.
Yeah.
He was better than that. And the community along the way rises up in defense of the mosque. And this Muslim community, will be eye-opening to a lot of people who read this story, that there is a small but solid, strong Muslim community in Fort Smith. Some of the leading doctors in town account it. a Palestinian refugee from Syria in the 90s who has A&H used car lot, and he's pictured in the Times in his office, which has an American flag, an Arkansas flag, and a Razorback pennant. They quickly choose to forgive the young man, and they go to the authorities and want him not to spend time in prison for this matter. And the story ends happily. I'm writing about it because I think this overstates, but as I put on social media, this, if people would let it, could change the world, because it breaks through. What I love about it is it breaks through so many stereotypes. One, of poor white working folks. You know, they're up against it, and a lot of what happens to them has to do with circumstances, not who they really are. To the community, Fort Smith, some people call it Fort Baptist, which they refer. It's a very conservative Republican town. Yet it rose up in defense and outrage against this act and in defense of the mosque, and then the solid, economically successful, responsible, forgiving, low-profile Muslim community in a conservative southern town. I think if we could all read it and take lessons from it, we'd all be better.
Yeah.
And I'm talking to myself as much as anybody else. I would have some instinctive stereotypes to apply to the young man, to apply to Fort Smith. In my case, I hope not to the Muslim communities. Others would have a different way that their prejudices or stereotypes would apply. They're all wrong.
Yep.
When you look at, maybe humanity is better than our politics. You think? Let's hope. Let's hope. That's the story.
Let's take a quick commercial break. We'll come back and talk some more politics with John Brummett of the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. We're back after this.
Arkansas Electric Cooperative Corporation provides electric energy across 2/3 of Arkansas. This is an exciting time in our energy history, with incredible progress being made in renewable energy and storage technologies. As our energy portfolio continues to diversify, we'll maintain an all-the-above strategy to provide reliable and affordable electricity. Ever since the first light bulbs were placed in our members' homes, the electric cooperatives have been the solutions provider for our members, and we want to continue that well into the future.
Each day, the promise of our nation begins again. Arkansas and America, moving forward. I help make that promise a reality. It's not for everyone, but people everywhere depend on us.
Oh, I love you too, sweetie.
Trucking delivers, or everything stops. And that's what drives me.
I did.
Welcome back to Talk Business and Politics Daily. I'm joined by John Brummett of the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. All right, there are some state politics happening. On Friday of last week, we learned in two separate incidents here that Governor Asa Hutchinson has set another execution date for a death row inmate, and he has decided he will grant executive clemency to a death row inmate who had been recommended for executive clemency. Let's begin with the case of John Green and the execution date that has been sent. It still strikes many people as odd that we are buying execution drugs in some sort of unknown fashion. Are we ever going to learn more about this procurement process?
I doubt it. There would have to be some political will to learn more about it. There'd have to be more public outrage than we hear. And most of the public outrage you hear on the issue of the death penalty is against people like me who are against the death penalty. I don't think the political temperament, political will is there, and I think there's a general in Arkansas, a general support.
Right.
For
our polling has indicated that.
For whatever cleverness, whatever the cleverness. Now, the issues of openness and accountability to the public, those are big and important issues, and this ought to be more of an issue. But my honest answer to your query is I don't think that it is in the current attitude.
Do you think we go through the same type of national scrutiny in a few months? I think it's early November that we did back in the summer, or the fact that it's not back-to-back executions over a 2-week period is going to downplay that?
You mean over this one execution?
Yes.
Well, no.
But he's got some challenges in terms of mental competency.
Yeah. But it's one. True. One killing of a person who might not ought to be killed ought to be as big a story as as scheduling 8 over 10 days or whatever it was. But the story, I mean, you're a newsman, I'm a newsman. The story was the rapidity and high number within a short period of time. It was like Arkansas was in a rush to kill a lot quickly. It was.
Well, they were, because they had drugs that were set to expire.
I know, and that was the story. A single execution, while dubious, I think, if what I'm reading is correct, because this fella, Green, you know, his attorneys will advance whatever arguments they need, and it remains to be seen. But the federal public defender has made a very strong, forceful case that he's gone crazy in prison, and he thinks that the prison has removed his spinal cord, and he suffers from paranoia, and there's an issue with killing people who are mentally ill, and so this will all. We'll have appeals. We'll have this will have to be adjudicated, and this may go up to the last minute, and all of that may happen again. It is a big, important issue. But the story before was the number. Well, what's your next question? I was getting ready to go off on a riff.
Well, on the flip side of that, though, those who do support the death penalty are going to look at that as the fact that the crimes he committed were heinous crimes. I mean, he killed his brother in another state, and then he, in a terrible way, killed a preacher in Knoxville, Arkansas, I think up in Johnson County. The crimes were truly heinous, and those that support the death penalty are going to say he deserves the punishment that he
even if he's
was convicted
legitimately
of.
nuts,
Right.
they probably would say that.
Right.
Sure. Okay.
All right.
I don't say that. I don't think our justice system is for revenge, vengeance. It's not a get even kind of thing. And in that regard, what I was getting ready to mention before, Jason McGee, in addition to setting an execution date for this Green fella, Governor Hutchinson has granted clemency per a parole board recommendation for one of the people who had been scheduled for executions back during the bedlam of 8 over a few days. His name was Jason McGee. There had been a beating death of a youth in North Arkansas in Melbourne, disadvantaged youth, by a group of people, and Jason McGee had not been the one, according to the police, who delivered the killing blow, yet he was the only one of the group to get the death penalty.
Yeah, 2 others, I think, that were involved in that received life sentences.
Right,
for the
one's
crimes.
getting ready for parole. So the issue is among the many problems with the death penalty, in my view, is the arbitrary nature of it. Here's the governor saying, all right, we're going to kill this guy. He may be mentally deficient, and over here we're not going to kill this guy because I think it's different. And then, speaking of vengeance, the sister of the victim of McGee has an op-ed piece in today's Democrat-Gazette saying that the family, most of them except for maybe the father, have forgiven McGee, believe he is a different man than before, and are pleased that the governor took the action that he did. There's a great capacity for forgiveness in Fort Smith and elsewhere, it would appear.
John Brummett, good to be with you.
All right, thank you.
That's all for today's program. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you next time.